I understand we're 2 games in, still very early in this 2024 NFL season, 15 games to go. With that said, I will not temper my excitement for this team because we've been told our whole lives, hey, dial it back, don't get too crazy. And where has that gotten us as we sit in the shadows containing whatever joy we may have? Or only letting a little bit out. In that time, have the Vikings won a championship? Have they hoisted Lombardi trophy? No. So what difference does it make? I predicted 11 wins for your 2024 Minnesota Vikings. I expected good things from this team. And still, after just 2 games, I've been blown away by what this team is putting out there product-wise on the football field. In retrospect, you really had to get rid of the 3 horsemen of dead weight within this organization by an ego-driven GM, a stubborn head coach, and an expensive coward at quarterback. Now you're seeing the Vikings, after a thorough spring cleaning, build this team the way that they want to from the ground up. They're able to start fresh. There is no selfishness. You have a GM and a head coach that's been able to check themselves, the GM with the roster management and the head coach with much better play calling than in the previous 2 years. And you have a quarterback that's not afraid to step up in the pocket, doesn't just stand there and wait for things to happen. Things break down, and he's able to adjust on the fly now that he has a competent team, a supporting cast around him. I don't think I've ever seen this complete of a Vikings team in my life, both in talent and in coaching. On the coaching side, offensively and defensively, years past, you could see what's coming. Offensively, the Zimmer days, run, pass, defense. Even KOC the previous 2 years. Big downs where you really need to make something happen, he would go super conservative. Or in the fourth quarter when you had no choice but to be aggressive, that's when he would let things fly. Now you don't know what to expect. That 97-yard play action pass to Jefferson from Sam Darnold at your own 3-yard line. Who could have seen that coming? Who expected that? No one did. Don't sit here and say that you did. The Niners didn't even expect it. That 3rd down play to Jalen Nailor, that final drive leading up to Will Reichert putting the Vikings up 9 points to essentially secure the win. Kevin O'Connell is in his bag. And on the defensive side of the ball, yeah, they're going to give up yards. They're bottom half of the league, I believe 18th in total defense. But let me tell you something right now. This same defense, 3rd in points allowed, 7th in takeaways, 5th best red zone defense. I can just sit back for the first time, I think, in my Vikings fandom outside of 2009 and 2017, where I say, I don't know what's happening, but I know it's going to be great more often than not. Offensively, hey, you're going up against the Niners. This is a juggernaut of a defense. What are you going to do? You can't make any mistakes, because any mistakes, you're going to fold. KOC looks at that and laughs and says, okay, yeah, we'll just dust them off with 400 yards. A healthy dose of run and pass. And defensively, Brian Flores, as the drive continues, as the field shrinks, this defense gets better. And then on the talent side, especially with the depth that you have, first off, everybody is just making plays. Everybody does their role and they do it well. And as a content creator, and I mean this in the biggest compliment possible, the depth is so great that it's overwhelming. Respectfully, it is impossible, damn near impossible, to keep up with the praise that's deserving for all of these players that are doing their jobs. Where I reflect back on the post-game vid, Vikings versus Niners, and I'm going through all these names, and then after the fact, I'm like, oh yeah, Patrick Jones is second. Our edge rusher 4 had 2 sacks against the Niners. 4 sacks total in 2 games. Jihad Ward, the big game that he had. And this is back-to-back weeks where it's like, oh yeah, I failed to mention this guy. Let me do it on the next video. That's how talented, how loaded with talent this team is. And the big additions through free agency, at least for this team, they weren't expected to be this big. The linebackers, both inside and outside, these weren't necessarily the splash free agents of this offseason. But Kwesi acquired them, and Brian Flores is getting the most out of them. You can just sit back as a fan and say, watch this team work. I know it's early, but when you're talking about one of the elite teams in the league at this present moment right now, you have to mention the Minnesota Vikings. And if you don't, especially the major networks, and I need to I'm saying this more so as a lesson for myself, that I need to stop getting worked up by the national media. Because for my entire life, the 24 years that I've been a fan of this team, the Vikings have never gotten the respect that they deserve from the likes of ESPN and other media outlets. Outside of the local coverage, they always get bleeped on for whatever reason. So whatever power rankings that you guys want to do, where you still want to have the Eagles and the Niners ahead of the Vikings, even after losses, the Niners, in which case they lost to the Vikings, whatever. The Eagles and the Niners, the Cowboys, all these teams, while they're making it on power ranking posters, the Vikings are making all the football plays. I need to stop searching for the acceptance of Big Brother, ESPN, and FS1, and just accept the fact that they're never going to give the Vikings their rightfully due respect. Just like Cheryl Swoops, for whatever reason, is going to be bitter as hell towards Caitlin Clark, even though she's clearly one of the best players in the WNBA. Not just rookie, one of the best players. You know what? You just want to hate for no reason. Against her, NFL analysts, I don't even know if it's hate against the Vikings or maybe Minnesota's just not the sexy market that you want to cover. But this is one of the best teams in the league. Certainly in the NFC, they're at the top of the list. You can have an argument, a debate between them and the New Orleans Saints. That's fine. But objectively speaking, talking football, the Vikings are right there. They can compete with anybody. I'm not going to tone it down. I'm excited. This is a good football team.